The coastline is all grey stone. The day is dull. Overhead, heavy clouds shield the sun, and a biting wind blows in from the sea. There's no one here except for a single young man. He trudges towards the sea, wearing simple clothes and carrying a large wicker basket on his back. He is a farmer, come to gather seaweed, fertilizer for his meagre plot of land. He comes to a thick patch of the slick black fronds and bends to the task. His face is blank. He's done this many times, and each time it is exactly the same. Until he catches sight of a patch of gold, the only bright colour anywhere to be seen. It peeks out from under a web of seaweed. He drops his basket and moves to investigate. There, like something from another world, is a gleaming golden surface. He pulls the seaweed away, revealing more of it. It is armour, worthy of a great knight. Overcome with excitement, he frantically grabs hold and tries to pull it out of the wet vegetation. It resists, tangled and heavy. Then it comes free and he falls backwards, the armour next to him. He cries out. A rotting face stares at him. There's a corpse inside the armour, half eaten by insects. He struggles backwards, slipping in the slime, making no progress. With time, he calms himself. His racing heart slows again. It's just a body. There is no danger. He gets to work, removing the armour and packing it in his basket. This will change everything. Across the merciless sea, in another realm, an ancient seer awakens in her sanctum. She moans, and a young acolyte hurries to her side with water. She knocks the cup aside, grabs the boy by the scruff and pulls him close to hear her raspy whisper. The Gilded Knight is dead. Long live the Gilded Knight. I am going to play some solo Mythic Bastionland. I'm going to have a great time. Whether anyone else wants to listen to this, I don't know, but that's fine. I haven't done any prep. What I have in front of me is the latest PDF that comes from the campaign, the crowdfunding campaign. So from from February 2025. I have the Mythic Realm sheet that also came from the campaign. So it's a ready-made realm that has all the landmarks marked in red, stuff that the GM or the referee would normally see, and barriers between hexes. And so I don't need to do anything to build the realm, which is great. And I also have Ask the Stars, which is a 2 or 3 page solo system created by Chris McDowell that I thought I would use and keep things simple. So let's go. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is create a knight. So a young knight errant seems to be the standard way to go. I've been a referee in a campaign of this game for about a year, but I haven't played it actually. So this is I've kind of tinkered around with things and created characters and things, but this is me, I don't know, creating my first character, I guess. So I'm rolling up my virtues first. So vigor, that's a D12 and a D6. My vigor is 12. It's not a bad way to start. Clarity, 9. Slightly less than average way to start. And spirit is 15. And then my guard is a 3. So I'd say wanderer, young knights errant with 6 blah 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 blah. They arrive in the realm seeking glory. If they lack direction, have them seek seer's counsel. I can handle that stuff. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is roll up a knight. Which knight? So that's another D6 and a D12. 1 and an 8. The Gilded Knight. A beacon of the brave and bold, all cloaked and masked in sun and gold. Property, a D10 long mace. A gambeson, A1. My knowledge of medieval armor is terrible. So there's all these words that I see and I think, oh cool, a gambeson. I know what that is. I'm not going to look it up, but let's just say that I have a gambeson. A gold cloaked plate armor, makes sense. Another A1. And a gold masked helm. So that's 3 armor. That's pretty intense. Okay, 3 armor. Opponents who know the value of gold have their first ever attack against you impaired. Pretty crazy ability. Majestic Charger is my steed. So I'll note down the steed's details. That's figure 12. Clarity 9, same as its rider. And Spirit 12. Does this horse have better stats than me? No, ever so slightly better. D6 Trample. Ability, Martyr in Waiting. Use as a reaction to being mortally wounded. Allies fighting with you regain 6 D6 guard and get plus D12 against your attacker for the combat. That is a pretty cool ability. Would be quite beneficial if I was playing with other people. Let's see how it goes in solo. Passion is pride. So restore spirit when you take personal credit for a great victory. I love that. That's great. So I've got kind of a spark table here to flesh out the character a little bit. A 4 and a 1. Where did the armor find you? On a beach. And what was left behind? A farm. Okay. So this character had been a farmer and has found this gold plate armor on a beach and left the farming life behind. And there are some details below that on the seer who knighted this person. And also at the bottom of every knight page, there are some just useful things that you can skim through as a referee if you need, for example, a name or an object. The name on this page is Lump. Let me just scroll to the next page and see, do I find Knotte. Not, but not spelled in the way you might think. I'll take that as a name. That sounds good. So the Gilded Knight, who is called Knotte. Small companies, 2 knights or fewer, may give each knight a squire. I think it makes sense to take a squire. Although I could play it a little bit risky and ask the stars, does this knight have a squire? So I'm going to roll a d12 and see what it says. I got a 12. That is a yes. So let's roll up a squire. 2d6 for each virtue. Okay, figure 7. Clarity. Youch. Clarity of 2. Spirit of 5. Is this person going to help me or just be kind of a hindrance? And the guard isn't, you don't roll for the guard, you just have 1 guard. Okay, and they ride a pony. And I have the stats of the pony here. 7, 7, 2, and 2. I've got some really strong horses with me on this in this party. And I've got some humans that are maybe less so. And the squire gets a dagger. Okay, so let's grab a name for the squire. Oh, roll d6 for their extra equipment. A 2 gives them an axe, d6 hefty. I'll just skim on to the knight's pages and see what name I see for the squire. So the first name I'm seeing is Maldita. I'm going to go with that being a female name. So I'll have a male knight and a female squire. And I can have a look at the people's sparks and just get something simple for each of them. I can flesh it out later. So there's some great spark tables with
Let's maybe pick 2 for each of them. So I think because the Gilded Knight is so much about appearance, it makes sense to choose some heraldry. So let's go with that. 3 and a 5. Earthy crown. So the earthy part is the palette and the crown is the symbol. So I'm guessing kind of maybe a brown background with a wooden crown and some vines growing in amongst the crown. Okay, so the symbol of the Gilded Knight, who is probably a little bit early in their career and maybe doesn't require all this brand stuff. And let's go with personality as well. So for demeanor, prying, and for interest, cookery. Okay, so prying, someone who's very into other people's business, and cookery. And remind myself of what their passion was, because I feel like the passion was also a little bit... restore spirit when you take personal credit. So it's kind of building up a bit of a picture of this former farmer who is now trying to accumulate as much glory as possible and maybe peeks into other people's personal affairs to try and see is there any advantage to himself. Doesn't sound very knightly so far, but let's see how his deeds match his personality. Let's go with personality for Maldita, the squire. So 11, cynical for the demeanor, and an interest in music. Given the squire doesn't have much else, it's reasonable to give the squire an instrument. So maybe let's give the squire like a flute or something that she can play and either entertain the knight or annoy him as they travel around the realm. Okay, let's throw in... All of this probably isn't necessary, but it just gives it a bit of flavor. I'm going to throw in a relationship between the two of them. So there's on the people spark tables, there's relationship. 7 and 2. The state is harmonious and connection is friend. Okay. So maybe they were both farmers and Knotte came across this special armor washed up on the beach. Maybe with the skeleton of its former owner still inside. And through some various events brought that armor to a seer and has become the new Gilded Knight. The old Gilded Knight maybe was lost at sea. And Maldita is a friend of Knotte from the farmlands who has been caught up in all the romance and excitement of this whole thing and joined him as a squire. Maybe a slightly naive situation with these two people. Going out, leaving their own realm, going to a new realm to gain some glory. So I'm looking for a task. So there's a task table, which I'm going to use to come up with the reason why they are traveling to this new realm. So again, it's 2d12. A 10 and a 12. Salvage warband. Interesting. Okay. So that suggests something about recovering something from maybe a failed military operation. I'm going to use the more abstract Ask the Stars table to see if I can flesh this out a little bit. So there's a column for the sign and a column for the position that just give weird prompts. 4 and a 5. The hand, creation and misdirection. And the 5, bowed, submission and mercy. Okay, so misdirection is suggesting to me that a neighboring realm, the realm that's the home of Knotte and Maldita, sent a warband into this realm. But it was not intended as an attack. It was a misdirection to distract from some other operation. All of this stuff is the ruler of the realm at the seat of power knows about this. I think Knotte and Maldita have been sent on a mission they know very little about. So a warband was sent to distract from something, and what did I say about submission and mercy? They failed in their mission and surrendered, but they had something in their possession that was valuable that the ruler wants retrieved. So they have sent a new knight out. It can't be that valuable. I don't know why I'd send someone who's just less experienced out to get this thing, but they've done that. So there was maybe a weapon that was in possession. We can flesh this out later. In possession of this warband, and they have been sent into this new realm to find out what happened to that warband and to retrieve, let's just say, the banner that they carried. It is maybe of sentimental value, or maybe it has some mystical value. So it's something like a flag that the warband carried. This may not even come up at all in play, because as soon as I start moving around and rolling dice, some mad stuff's going to happen. That's the nature of this game. But it's nice to have a reason to go to a realm. Oh, you know what I need to do? I need to do one little bit of prep, because this map doesn't have myths on it. So let me... can I annotate this PDF? M1 for myth 1. It's not too important to me where they go. I'd like them to be spread around the realm. I'd like to maybe have them in different types of terrain. And it's a really nice map, which is a help. This is not great radio, but you can just assume that I am putting things on a map. Okay, so now I have a map with 6 myths on it. I haven't decided what the myths are yet. I'll work them out as I go. There's a bunch of things I'm going to be doing as I play that if I was running this for other people, I would have done in advance, but I don't mind delaying myself in the same way that I would mind delaying other players. So I'm going to be rolling on spark tables and things as I go. So Knotte and Maldita are arriving in the realm for the first time. I'm going to roll a d4 to see whether they come from the north, east, south, or west. Okay, east. And then a d12 to work out what hex they begin on. 12. So the very bottom right corner of the map, which is a crag. It's quite rough terrain. So arriving at, let's go horizontal first, so 12. And the next thing I want to think about is the time. So the year has 3 seasons, spring, harvest, and winter. I'll roll a d6 and use the result of that to decide what season it is. It is spring, which makes travel a little bit easier. I won't get into the festivals and things like that now. It's not that important for me. And let's do one last thing. Decide what phase of the day it is. Morning. Knotte and Maldita have spent the night camping among this rough terrain. It is extremely rocky. It was a rough night's sleep. Let's see how the sky looks for the morning. 1 and 12. Glittering swells. So, I think Knotte is optimistic about this journey. He's looking up ahead over this extremely barren, very craggy landscape. It's difficult for them to maneuver through it. It's difficult on the horses. But when he looks ahead, there are these clouds on the horizon that are almost sparkling. It's almost like something magical is up ahead. And he has this feeling of being like the chosen one. He found this armor on the beach near his home. He kind of tends to skim over the point that there's a skeleton inside the armor when he found it. And he's feeling very positive about making his way into the heart of this realm and retrieving this banner, being rewarded by the ruler, moving his way up the ranks of the knight, kind of the states of knighthood. And I think he's a daydreamer, and he thinks about himself being kind of ruling his own holding and maybe even becoming the leader of the entire realm at some point in the future. Let's have a little check on the weather. 7 and 1. Hot rain. So he's looking up at these glistening clouds and thinking, this is going to be a wonderful day. And then there's the boom of thunder and rain starts falling down on his face. And beside him, Maldita is sighing. She's just dealing with the actual work of packing up their camp and is quite frustrated by the sudden change in the weather. Let's start traveling. So I'll open up the travel rules, refresh myself a bit. Traveling consumes a whole phase of the day and uses one of 3 methods. Traveling on foot or steed, that'll do. We're not going to be rushing ourselves. They don't know exactly where they're going. So I think coming from the direction they're coming, it makes sense to go northwest. So they'll kind of head towards the center of the realm. I have a map. I have complete knowledge of everything that's out there, but they don't. I can see from where they are, they're on kind of rocky crags, and I think they would see from being a little bit elevated that there are meadows to the north. It would make sense to travel north, first of all, go towards the meadows, getting out of this craggy area, which is harder to ride on. So they're going to travel to the north, and it's kind of a downward incline. It's becoming easier as they go. Knott's mood is good. He's just extremely optimistic about what this quest is going to lead to. Maldita is less pleased about the whole thing and is kind of playing a slightly sorrowful song on her flute as they ride along. And they will finish the morning in a meadow. So I better keep track of what hex I'm in. So that's now 11, 12. And I'll do a travel roll. So that brings us to the end of morning, start of afternoon, so noon. And I'll roll a d6. A 3. Encounter the next omen from the nearest myth. Okay, now we get into the real stuff. So, the nearest myth is M3. So I need to roll on the myths table and work out what myth this is. M3. So on the myths table, I'm going to roll a d6 and a d12. 1 and 10. The dead. I have run this myth before. It's actually the first myth, it's kind of a coincidence, that I've ever run. So that is helpful. I'm not going to read through the entire thing. I'm just going to read out the little rhyming couplet and the first omen. Corpses rent of soul, their resting spirit torn, pulled by malice from their sleep to serve anew unborn. And the first omen is children playing the skeleton game, wearing wooden skull masks and throwing bones at passers-by. Knotte and Maldita are making their way into this meadow. It's on the boundary between the craggy area and this more like a grasslands. and it's quite overgrown. There's these tall grass and lush greenery, lots of colourful wildflowers growing, but the grass is coming up to their legs, kind of as they ride on their horses, and they hear before they see the sounds, high-pitched voices of children planning an ambush. And Knotte holds up a hand to indicate to Maldita that they should slow down a little bit and be careful. They don't want to walk or ride straight over some young children. And I think Knotte will call out in his most knightly voice, the great gilded knight and his squire approach. Are there any young vassals of this realm hiding in this place? And there's some snickering, but they're not making themselves known. But he has a pretty good idea of where they are now, so he sort of rides forward slowly, and Maldita also moving forward. I might do a clarity roll just to make sure that, I guess what's at risk here is that not being a little bit cavalier here might actually ride on top of a child, which would be a pretty atrocious way to begin this game. I'm not sure why I decided to do this, but that's what's happening. So his clarity is 9, and I just rolled a 19. So he rides forward, and there's a cry out from just in front of his horse. No one is getting hurt in this situation. Of a small figure pops up, and for a moment, Knotte is kind of gripped with fear because he thinks this is not a human. It has a let me just check this element again. Wooden skull masks. It looks like a decayed body that has just appeared in front of him, and he has this flashback to the armor, finding that armor on the beach, and trying not to remember that there was a decaying corpse within it. He was just so impressed with this gold and the possibilities that initially he thought he could sell this and become wealthy. Then somehow his mind was kind of turned towards the idea of becoming a knight. The part of that memory that he's tried to box away is now coming flooding back as he sees this short, undead-like thing popping up in front of him and screeching at him. And then before he can regain his senses, he starts being pelted with little bones. From both directions, there are small bones, maybe pieces of chicken, or maybe kind of small bones from a pig, are clattering against the armor that he's, of course, wearing. He's wearing his gilded armor, even though it's fairly impractical to ride around all day in gilded armor. So it's like a tinny popping of a drum as they attack him. And I think they're not attacking... Well, let me ask the Oracle. Are they also attacking Maldita? So a straight up D12 against Ask the Stars. 4. Are they attacking Maldita? No, but... Okay, so their initial attack is entirely focused on Knotte, and then once it seems like they consider him to have been defeated, they switch and they start throwing the remainder of their bones at Maldita. Let me see how she reacts to that. Is she... I think she's maybe the more hasty of the two. Is she going to fight back? Is maybe a little bit strong, but yeah, is she going to try and defend herself in some significant way? 5. No, but. Okay, she's not going to physically attack some children, but she'll start shouting at them, and there's some real anger in her voice that gives these little kids pause. Some of them start to scatter, and Knotte reaches down and grabs hold of the closest one, the one who is just in front of his horse, and says, Little child, what's the meaning of this game? He sees now quite clearly that this is actually quite a crude mask and that this is not some sort of creature. And asks the child, what is the game about? Let's see. Is this child someone who can give him much information? I'll roll again. 7. Yes, but... Okay, the child has information on this game, but they find it hilarious that this great knight in gilded armor has never heard of the skeleton game. And they're just going to try and wriggle out of his grasp and escape. And I think it's kind of more precision in his grasp rather than just physical strength that's going to determine whether they can escape. So let's do the roll from the point of view of the child and give them a clarity of 10 and just roll against that. 11. Okay, so the child tries to escape, but can't manage it because Knotte has a good grasp. And he asks again, what's this game? And the child looks up at him, eventually raises up the mask on this twine that holds it against her head. She reaches at the mask and she says, it's the skeleton game. And she explains that she has some of the details, that this is a game that is just plain fun because it's always good to throw bones at random people, but it protects them. That this is a game that when you play it, which is something that the adults in their village kind of encourage them to do, it gives them some measure of protection from something. And she's quite small and she's not entirely sure what it is they're being protected against, but by donning these masks, particularly by wearing the masks and holding the bones, they are separating themselves from their normal appearance, their normal way of being, and it means that they will not be harmed by something. I wonder, does Knotte think this is just mainly a superstition? I think he would. I think Knotte comes from a farming background. He's aware of all kinds of kind of folk customs that his own people have, and I don't think he's particularly weirded out by this. So I think he maybe gives the child a warning and says that she shouldn't tangle with important knights such as himself, and lets her off on her way. And I think they move on. I don't think there's something there that would cause Knotte or Maldita to tarry and look for and investigate further. So they're going to continue on through the meadows and travel to the east. So that will take them to the end of the day, and I'll do another roll. It's a 6. Okay, a 6 on the travel roll. Encounter the Hex's landmark, otherwise all clear. So there's nothing sparked by any of the myths, but let's take a nature spark for fauna. We've already talked a little bit about what the grasslands are like, but let's throw in some detail about whether there's any animals here. Okay, fauna. Their nature is helpful, and their form is reptiles. Interesting. Okay, so how could reptiles be helpful? Let me think of... I'll go to the task table and see, is there some task? I'll just roll on the action table. 7, break. I'm going to roll again. I'm not sure what that would mean. 8, guard. Okay, so reptiles that are helpful. So I think they are moving. The sun is starting to set. They're riding through this meadow. And they are coming out of the longer grass and into an area that looks quite peaceful, and that will be a good spot to camp for the night. There's good visibility all around them. There's a little bit of shelter from a tall tree that stands alone. And as they approach the tree, there's this inhuman screech. They look up, and there are these kind of weird scaled creatures about as long as an arm, nesting in the branches of this tree. And they make an ungodly screech as soon as they see Knotte and Maldita approaching. But the closer they come, they kind of settle. They realize that these two humans aren't here to do any damage, and they settle down again. But they realize that because they have essentially a proximity alarm in the tree above them, if anyone comes to bother them in the night, they should be alerted to it by these weird creatures that they're not familiar with. They don't have reptiles like this in their home realm. And that brings us to the end of the first day. Let me remind myself, do I need to do anything special overnight? So if it were the winter, there's some challenges to camping outside. I think during the spring, it's all right. Okay, camping. When sleeping outdoors, make a wilderness roll as normal, ignoring landmarks. Hostile omens prevent proper sleep, while others may not occur at all if they're improbable as nighttime activity. Okay, so I'm going to spend the phase, so that's from sunset until the morning. I'm going to spend that phase camping. So I'll do a roll and see if I encounter an omen overnight. 1. Encounter the next omen from a random myth in this realm. So I assigned numbers to the myths. The dead, which is the first one that I encountered, was 3. I'm going to roll a d6 and see if I encounter another myth, or will it be myth 3? It is myth 3. Okay. So the next omen of the dead. Terrified scout sisters reporting wandering corpses on their patrol. Won't rest until taken seriously. So the travel rules say if it's unlikely that this would happen in the night, maybe don't run with it, but I think that's fairly reasonable. So Knotte and Maldita are sleeping, and they are woken up by the screeching of the lizards, the reptiles above them. And Maldita hops to her feet and draws her dagger, which she keeps close to her when she sleeps. And Knotte, who I would imagine takes off his gilded armor when he's sleeping, gets up and looks around for his mace. And they both are kind of taking a moment to let their eyes accustom to the dark. And they hear people approaching from the north. So they crouch down so as not to be seen. And let's see, how many of these scout sisters are there? I'll roll. I don't want it to be too small, so I'll add 3 to whatever I roll on this d12. 15. Okay. So 15 scout sisters. So these are young women, and some of them just girls, who are out traveling in the wilderness, learning the ways of foraging and hunting and trapping and understanding about plants and animals. It's something like a school outing, but maybe a little bit very hands-on. You know, they would have had with them animals that they trapped, and they would have been out for several days on this excursion. But they've dropped all of their equipment that they had with them, and they're just running through the grass, crying out for help. Let's see. Do they know that there's a camp ahead of them? Have they somehow detected that Knotte and Maldita are there? That's the start. 4. No, but. Okay, so they don't know that there's a knight up ahead, but there's some reason that they're coming to this location in particular. I'll use the sign and position on Ask the Stars to see what that could be. 8 and 8. The traveller, wandering, chance and burning, honesty and pride. So wandering would make me think they're lost, but then saying that they're scouts, I think that they're not lost. This is a well-travelled route, and this tree is a landmark. So honesty and pride. Honesty is telling me something like their priority is kind of to let people know that there's this danger out there. So they're trying to get home. So yeah, they're just coming to. They've been running through the night. Maybe they did get a little bit turned around, but they're trying to find this particular tree, which is a landmark on their route to their home village. And the burning as well from the spark. I think they're exhausted because they've been running through the night. And when they do eventually get close enough to see that there's a steed and a pony here, they slow down. They're panting, and I think Knotte and maybe Maldita first will step forward, possibly to Knotte's annoyance, and call out to them and let them know that they're not a pair of bandits or mercenaries or something. They're just a knight and squire traveling through the wilderness. She tries to put them at ease and gives them water to begin with. So takes her water sack and is passing it around. It's probably challenging to give it to all of them. And Knotte follows behind them, and he turns to maybe the eldest woman, still quite young, who is something like the leader of this group, and can see fear in her eyes, and asks her, what is it that she is running from? And let's give her a name. So the first name I come across is Demelza. That's on the page, the Talonite page. I'll go to the People Sparks and I'll get some details on her. So let's go with appearance. Her physique is warm. I think I'll interpret that as being like she was running at the lead. She's maybe the most athletic, got the most endurance of the group. And her dress is elegant. Okay. So they're all dressed in, this is some sort of kind of educational group that they have. Maybe there's some kind of crest associated with it, but it's mainly that they have to wear green and brown. But her clothes are particularly sophisticated, although at the moment they're in quite a poor state of repair because she's been running through branches and long grass trying to escape from something. Let's give her a background, just to flesh her out a bit more. Okay, so upbringing is insular. And a memory that she has is of riding. Okay, so this group comes from a village, but she is not of that village. She is from a nomadic group of people who raise horses and travel around. Let me have a little look at the map. There are some plains to the east that are are a little bit isolated. They've got kind of mountains on either side, and in this part of the realm, there are tribes of people who live off the land and raise horses and trade horses. And she is from that people, so she understands kind of wilderness and survival very well, and that's why she, when she came to this village, was given this position of teaching these other women these skills. Okay, so I think she's someone very capable and immediately is able to communicate very well and can express exactly what she's seen and what the dangers are. But I wonder what's her impression of Knotte. He's not wearing his gilded armor, so he's much less impressive than he normally is. So does she see Knotte as being someone who is capable of helping her or protecting the group? So I'm going to ask the stars. And yeah, I'll just do a straight up roll. You can roll 2 dice if you think it's likely or unlikely. 11. Yes, so she strongly thinks he is. I think it's his demeanor. I think Knotte, even though he hasn't proven himself in any way at all, he carries himself as the knight that he imagines himself to be, or the knight that he imagines he will be. So she even jumps to that and it's like, Sir Knight, we're running for our lives from terrible monsters, undead creatures. They rose out of the earth and tried to grab hold of us. And she's going through. She gives a very detailed account, and she talks about. Let me open up that myth again so I don't go on a mad ramble, which is my normal approach to everything. Wandering corpses on their patrol. Yeah, I'm going to stick with they reached out of the ground. So there were some of these rotting corpses under a loose layer of soil that had clearly been disturbed recently. So the Scout Sisters, being out kind of learning about the wilderness, learning survival skills, had come to this patch of ground thinking there's something strange here, let's investigate, let's try and understand, is this some kind of animal behavior where, we should be knowing about? But it was a trap. So when they approached it, these decayed skeletal hands with flesh hanging out them grabbed onto their ankles and were trying to hold them steady while more plodding corpses came out of the tree line, and they were holding rusted glaives, these huge weapons, and it essentially they had been ambushed by a group of zombies. I don't like to use the word zombie, and I don't think they would use it in this world, but that's what they are. So Knotte is listening with this is his first time. He has never done anything as a knight. I think it's reasonable to see, does he kind of keep his composure? And kind of what's at risk here is that he will reveal that he's inexperienced if he fails this spirit roll, which he doesn't. So he nods and he asks a few simple questions. Not revealing much more than she'd already told him, but enough to show that he's engaged with every detail of this. And he walks back to the campfire. He tells Maldita to make sure that all of the women are safe. And he starts to don his gilded armor. And as he does this in kind of the flickering firelight, everyone looks on and they think, surely this is the hero who can deal with this problem. And I think that Knotte and, well, I think what he's going to do, he's going to instruct Maldita, and this is an incredibly ridiculous decision from his point, but this is how I feel the character is. He's going to instruct Maldita to escort the group to their village find out from them where it is, make sure they get back safely, while he rides on and looks for traces of these creatures. So something to remember about this game that is easy to kind of skim over is the hexes are quite large. So I don't think he's actually going to travel to another hex, and I don't think necessarily that Maldita is going to travel to another hex, but they're both going to spend the remainder of the night traveling around within this hex. So he's going to go to the direction they came from. She's going to go further on to the village. He's going to be looking for signs of these undead, and perhaps even to find them and fight them alone. This is a crazy idea. So let's deal with that. So each hex is large and diverse, a land within a land. Some may spend their whole lives within one hex. A forest hex might have cliffs, streams, clearings, and caves. When ruling exploration actions follow the standard action procedure, consider whether the action will take a whole phase of the day to carry out. Yeah, so I think he's going to spend the night phase searching for these undead creatures that they saw. Let me do a clarity roll, which is his senses kind of looking to find them. I should be thinking out loud. That's what I want to do on this recording. I'm wondering whether it's certain. You know what? I'll ask the stars. I'll ask the stars first of all. If he searches for them, will he find them? And then the clarity roll can be about the nature of that finding them. So, and I think I'm going to say it's likely they'll find them because the scouts were running for some time. I don't think they traveled a great distance. He knew which direction they were coming from. He had good information from Demelza. So I'm going to roll 2d12 and take the higher, and that will tell me whether a search will result in finding them. Oh, and I get a 3. That's a no. Okay, so he will search, and he will not find them. Let me ask, will he find traces of them if he searches? And I think that should be likely that he would. 10. 10 is a yes. Okay, I think there is less at risk if he's not going to find the actual creatures themselves. But I think he returns to the site where... So I'm not going to do a clarity roll. He returns to the site where the women were attacked. He finds the ground that has been disturbed. And he's going to dismount from his horse and walk around this area and look for basically any information he can find or anything that would help him understand these things. So I'm going to return to the myth and see what kind of information might be available here. Okay, so the next omen, there's this weird thing with solo play of I'm not trying to surprise myself, but I'm wondering what to put on the recording, what not to. There's a great vulture, and I'm wondering where does that appear in the omens? Yeah, here's what I'm going to do. While he's looking around in this rough ground that has been disturbed recently, he finds a limb that has been broken away from a corpse that became so rotted that there was not enough flesh holding it together. So there is this arm which was holding a shield. So there's signs that this was a soldier. He can see traces of the kind of tattered clothes that it's wearing as well. And the more he looks around, and there's actually little traces of, I don't know, maybe fingers and ears, and just these things are falling apart. They've moved on, but there's pieces of them here. And he hears above him the screech of a vulture that has been attracted by these bits of flesh that are lying out on the ground. The vulture is going to swoop down and try and lay claim to what it has. I think I'll have Knotte make a clarity save to see if he is can jump clear of that swooping bird. And he fails at that. So let's begin what's essentially a combat. So do I have a D8? So rip and tear. D8 is the attack of the grizzlebird. So I think he doesn't realize that this is happening until it's too late. He's inspecting these bits of body part that have been kind of torn off this undead person when it was pulling itself free from the earth. And at the last moment, he hears this screech and tries to jump out of the way as a bird swoops down and claws at him for 2 damage. So his guard is 3, and now it's reduced to 1. The Gilded Knight turns and draws his D10 long mace and will make his first attack. I'm going to quickly double check what long means. Long weapons require both hands and are impaired in confined environments. Okay, he's no interest in using 2 hands, so... but now that I've opened up the rules, I'm reminded that he has 3 armor, a huge amount of armor. So the attack of 2 knocks him over, and he kind of rolls free, but it actually doesn't affect his guard. So he's in good shape. Okay, I've just read the description of the Great Red Vulture. Burned and ground feathers are known to charm vermin into obedience, completely silent under moonlight. So I will drop the detail that I had before, that it screeches as it comes down on him. It's swooping down towards him, and it's just some instinct that he has that he looks up and attempts to jump out of the way, fails, and gets an almighty whack that is absorbed by his armor. The bird now, which is huge, like similar in size to Knotte himself, is standing over these body parts to protect them, and has its beak bared and is looking at him with this intense glare. And Knotte is going to take out his long mace, and he's going to make an attack with a D10. And that's a 10. So that's a huge swing from Knotte that I think it will just clatter directly into this bird's head. It powers through its guard and takes 7 out of its vigor. If they lose, so in the damage section of the rules, if they lose half or more of their remaining vigor, it is a mortal wound. So 7 is just less than half of 15. So this bird, despite being hugely impacted by that attack, does not give in. So let's go to the combat sparks table and think what kind of strategy will this bird use? So I got a 3 and a 6, 3 and a 9. Assault decoy. Okay. I think that what Knotte is unaware of is that there are 2 of these birds. And he has given this first bird that's in front of him and is drawing all of his attention this huge whack. And while he does that, a second bird is swooping down and is going to attack him from behind. And it has complete advantage. I think I'm going to award it an extra die for the attack. Bonus attack dice. These are gained from useful information, shrewd preparations, or tactical advantage. Plus 8 is a typical bonus dice. So it'll be 2d8 attacking from the first bird. Sorry, the new bird that's attacking. I think the first one is primarily posturing, and it's not actually attacking. It's just trying to draw Knotte closer. So there's going to be 1 attack just from the second bird that he hasn't seen yet. That's an 8 and a 3. So I can use that 8 wholly against... I think I don't want to give too much credit to the bird's strategy, so I don't think they're going to use a gambit here. It's just going to attempt to damage him as much as possible. So that 8 is going against, firstly, his armor of 3, which is reduced to then 5 damage. That burns through his guard. His guard is reduced to 0 and 5 more damage, taking his... Sorry. There's 2 more damage, taking his vigor from 12 to 10. So Knotte turns now and sees he's in more trouble than he realized. He has 2 quite significant enemies. He's feeling tired. He's feeling endangered. I'm going to ask... One thing I'm aware of with solo play is there's a tendency to be extremely hard on yourself. I'm going to ask the Oracle, is it possible that Maldita has already returned the women to their village and is now on her way here? I'll make that just a 1d12 roll and see what happens. No, that is not possible. And so we continue. Okay, so Knotte has 2 giant birds. I think probably he understands that they're mainly concerned with holding on to their little collection of body parts that they've found for themselves here. And this probably doesn't need to be a desperate fight to the death. Let me see what feats I have available. Smite, release your righteous fury. Focus, create an opening to exploit. Okay, I think he's going to try and escape. So I think using focus makes sense. So he's going to swing at the animals, but really just to push them back a little bit and give himself an opening to run into the tree line that is nearby. So the undead which attacked came from that tree line, and it might give him some chance to recover, and it'd be harder for the birds to maneuver there. So this is an attack with his mace, but really he's just trying to give himself an opening. It's a 4. Okay, so focus. Use after rolling an attack. Perform a gambit without using a die. Pass a clarity save or become fatigued. So I've rolled a 4, and I'm using focus. So I'm going to roll my d20 to see if I can pass a clarity save to see if using focus fatigues me. So I'll do that. And that fails. So the effort of what is happening here is going to be enough to give fatigue to Knotte, but he has 2 gambits that he can use. I could repel a foe away from me. I could move after the attack. I think these are the things I want to do. So there is one of the birds which is mostly staying on the undead body parts. The other, which is more aggressive, that attacked from behind. I'll use one of the gambits to repel the more aggressive bird, and then I'll move after the attack. So I'll basically run away or attempt to run to the trees. So repel a foe away from you. For gambits other than bolster and move, the target receives a vigor save to ignore the effect. So let's see if the repel gambit succeeds against the aggressive bird. So its vigor is 15, and I'm rolling a vigor save. 5. So he attempts to repel that bird, and it fails. So he swings in the most aggressive way he can, and if it had connected, it would have killed this bird with certainty. And he's hoping that level of force demonstrated will cause the bird to have second thoughts and move away. It doesn't. And then he starts backing away towards the tree line. But I think because that didn't go particularly well, he now has... Let me ask the stars is one bird going to pursue him as he tries to move towards the tree lines, or are they both going to come? So, rolling a d12. It's a 6. Is one bird going to come? No, but. Okay, so both birds are going to come, but one of them is clearly the more aggressive of the two birds. So that's the one that will be attacking. The other one is kind of a few steps back, and it's, I guess, checking to see how this attack goes. And these are carrion birds, they're not necessarily predators. It's checking to see if this human appears weakened, then it'll hop in and try to take advantage of the situation. But effectively, there's going to be one bird attacking, which it will do now. That's a 7. Awesome. What I might get is a complete campaign in one session. That'd be great. Okay, I've rolled a 7. I'm just looking at the gambits that are available. Stop a foe from moving next turn. I think the bird is actually going to... It sees that Knotte is moving towards the trees, and it flies up above him and is going to try and swoop in between him and the trees to block him from moving away. So that's what I will use that for. And I will give him the vigor save that he is entitled to stop that gambit from working. Which he fails. So Knotte is in the unenviable position of having one of these... What are these birds called? You should probably know what they're called if they're going to kill this guy. One great red vulture behind him, in between him and the trees where he wants to retreat to, and another one that is a little bit further away from him and less aggressive, and also has already been hurt by him. So he's got them on either side. I think what he should do, the best strategy here, is to charge at the bird that he's already hurt and try to finish it. If he can kill that other bird, then it might give the other one pause. So he is fatigued. He can't use smite. If he could use smite, that would be real helpful. Instead, he's going to run towards the other bird and use his long mace. Let me just look up long again. So long. Weapons require both hands and are impaired. Yeah, it's long. Okay. I was thinking I could also use a dagger and maybe try and squeeze a gambit out of this. But because it's long, I can't. I don't have a free hand. Okay, D10. So he charges at this bird. And let's see how that goes. A 10. Excellent. Okay, nothing fancy, no gambits. Just wants to hit that thing for 10. He's already burned through its guard. It had 8 vigor remaining. So he charges with his mace and with some amount of flourish, because even in this life and death situation, I think Knotte is concerned about how he looks, and that his fantastic gilded armor is impressive to anyone around who might be seeing this. He does a kind of a spin in the air and brings his mace down on its head and crushes it, and the bird collapses to the ground. And he kind of lands unceremoniously on top of it. He's sort of in a heap on top of this dead bird. And we'll do my instinct as a referee is to do a spirit save for the other bird to see if it stays in the... I just want to check, is there a particular rule for that? Wavering morale. Organized groups... It's not really an organized group. Groups who lose half their number must pass a spirit save to avoid rout or surrender. Yeah, I think that was the intention of the attack, and I think it makes sense. Like, he's just killed a bird in a quite gruesome way. I think the other one is going to do a spirit save against the spirit of 5 to see if it stays in this fight. 14. The birds, which until now have been silent, these kind of deathly birds which make no noise at night, screeches at him in this kind of deafening, hateful noise, and then it spreads its huge wingspan and pushes itself up off the earth. And for a moment, the moon is obscured and things grow dark, and Knotte thinks there's going to be another attack. And then there's peace. And it's just him panting alone in this bloodied clearing with pieces of undead creatures strewn about. And what condition is he in? So he lost his guard. His guard is recovered back up to 3. And he lost 2 vigor, which actually wasn't that bad. He went from 12 to 10. And his fatigued condition is cleared. However, he has spent the night being quite busy. So in the travel section, it says, sleep. Each morning, all who did not get a proper sleep the previous day lose D6 clarity. I think even if he sleeps after this, I think he's had a bad night. So I'm going to roll D6 and lose 1 clarity. So his vigor is 10. His clarity is down to 8. After these events, I think he will gather up. He'll maybe take an arm. So I'll add that to his items with the intention of bringing this to some expert in one of the holdings and letting them know that he encountered these strange... Well, the Scout Sisters encountered these strange creatures, and he found the site of the attack. And I think he'll talk up the bird fight. There might be a few more birds when he describes what happened. And maybe he fought through them to get to the body parts so that he could take them and bring them back. I feel like that is a good place to end this session. So, yeah, maybe I'll come back to Knotte and see what happens to him next. And if anyone listened to this, I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope I didn't make too many mistakes. This is an amazing game. Read it for yourself, and maybe you'll get the rules better than I did. Okay, cool.